Hogstye.
Well, that was not fun to watch, everybody. Hey, and welcome to a post-game loss episode of the Hogstye. And it was a loss in spectacular fashion from the Washington football team. A lot of stuff that kind of paralleled last week. A lot of stuff that is what we kind of feared was going to happen with this team. And we're going to get right into it. I'm joined, of course, by Steve and Jamal. Guys, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Hello.
Hope everything is going well in your lives. I'm kind of flummoxed with this whole game because even though it was what we expected, it was still unpleasant.
Well, let me say something, man. That just needs to be said, and
Go
we
ahead.
can just get it all out. Look, the season's over. It's completely over. You know, there's nothing else to worry about. Like, if you got favorite other teams that you want to root for, watch them on Sundays because the Washington football team is going 1-15. They're losing 14 games in a row. You said it. You heard it here first. I just don't know what else to tell you all. You don't have to check in anymore. Okay, it's over. But now that I got that,
bitter.
now that I got that out of my system, and everybody who felt something similar, that was us getting it out of our system. It's still a season to be played. Frustrating to watch. And it's unfortunate that it kind of has like a PTSD effect because we dealt with this all last season basically. So we're basically back here so quickly after a promising or an exciting win in week 1.
Yeah,
all right.
I think that's a good way to put it.
Here. Let's get this ugliness out of the way.
Okay.
For the Washington offense side, Dwayne Haskins ended up 19 for 33, 223 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Sacked 4 times, rating of 88.3. Antonio Gibson, 13 for 55, 4.2 yards per carry. J.D. McKissick, 8 for 53, 6.6 yards per carry. Dwayne Haskins, for his part, had 1 carry, 8 yards. Leading receiver for both teams was Terry McLaurin, 7 receptions, 125 yards, 17 yards per catch. 1 touchdown, long 26. Steve Sims, 3 for 53. Logan Thomas, 4 for 26, and about 500 drops. Dontrell Inman, 2 for 17. Gandy Golden, 1 for 3. Marcus Ball, 1 for 2. On the Arizona offensive side, Kyler Murray, 26 for 38, 286 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 sack, quarterback rating of 88.3. Kenyon Drake, 20 carries, 86 yards, 4.3 yards per carry. Kyler Murray, for his part, 8 for 67, 8.4 yards per carry. DeAndre Hopkins was 8 for 68. Andy Isabella, 2 for 67. Christian Kirk, 2 for 57. Larry Fitzgerald, 7 for 50. And Dan Arnold, because God help us if a tight end doesn't contribute, 2 for 26. On the defensive side, somehow Washington ended up with 3 sacks, most of which were catching Kyler Murray behind the line of scrimmage type things.
Right.
John Bostic with 1, Chase Young with 1, and Landon Collins with 1.
I think
Kevin
John
Pierre-Louis
Bostic had the only legitimate,
sack. Only real sack was that. Yeah, it was Bostic. And in terms of tackles, Kevin Pierre-Louis led the way with 15 total tackles, and that is stats. Now, the big question we have in games like this is always, did Tressway outpunt the defense or outpunt the entire Redskins offense? He was 6 punts for 284 yards, and so if you add up net passing,
Let me guess.
Okay, all right.
You know what? It shouldn't even take this long. I think he did.
No,
I
don't think
he didn't. The net passing yards is, which you subtract the sacks out, was 199 yards passing and then 117 yards rushing. And so that is 316 yards of offense. So congratulations, Redskins. Washington offense, you outgained your punter.
Shout out to them garbage time stats.
Exactly
right. I will say on Tressway's punting, that one punt that they said was a touchback at the end of the half.
That was not a touchback.
That was not a touchback. That was at the 1.
Yeah.
That was perfect.
Yeah.
And we got dicked over by the refs there. And I'm going to be mad as hell about
that. Cost them the game.
Right.
Look, here's my initial thought. Can I give the coaches – I don't know what the lowest grade I could possibly give a coaching staff is. I'm going to think about it. I guess for now it's an F-, but that's what I'm giving Ron Rivera and his staff for this great game, an F-. Number one, you completely quit at the end of the game.
Right.
You're only down by 2 touchdowns, and you just utterly surrendered, which is pathetic, and it sent the wrong signal to your team, to your offense, everybody. So that was sad. And it's like I think Scott Turner is trying to force a round peg into a square hole to a certain extent with this offense. You're just bound and determined to come up with Carolina's offense, and it's just not working. And what worked in garbage time was you started focusing on Terry McLaurin, who's your only real weapon, and lo and behold, you gained some yards, and he was open other times during the day. So I think this was a very poor effort from the Washington coaching staff, and we'll get into the rest of it. But that's I wanted to say
I think
that
it's
up front.
hilarious that when the game ended, how do you concede and basically quit when you have a full set of timeouts? I think 2 timeouts left.
Yeah.
Don't call one, but when you get the ball back, instead of kneeling to end the game, you run a play.
I know,
and
risk an injury. Yeah.
What was the purpose? I just don't get it.
Just admit you just put up an "I quit" sign.
There's been some inconsistency. Even last week, there was some weird stuff at the end of the game that made no sense, and we didn't care because we won. But, it's odd, and it's not like they're putting out young guys to say, "Hey, go play a couple plays."
No, it was just we quit. This game is over, and we quit. And Jamal, that was what I was thinking of. Jamal is you had 3 timeouts. You're only down. You were within 2 touchdowns.
Sure.
You just went. Finally, you had a productive drive a couple minutes earlier, and you're just going to quit.
Why didn't you kick an onside kick with 6 minutes left?
Yeah, who's to say you couldn't have scored a quick touchdown? Then maybe a miracle could happen. But instead, you just totally surrender. I thought that was really sad, and I would be really pissed off if I was the players over when that happened.
Yeah, I'd be wondering about a lot of things there.
Yeah.
It was frustrating to see.
It was very frustrating. All right, well, why don't we start with the Washington football defense versus the Arizona offense.
Okay.
I think it kind of went how we all thought. They did their best to contain Murray, but that's a hard sell to contain Kyle Murray.
Look, this is I told you guys who are listening this would happen. This was not a good matchup for Washington.
It wasn't.
When you have a defensive line and linebackers like this team has, which, granted, they have a ton of talent in the front 7, but what do? They make their money on blitzing. You can't blitz Kyler Murray. You need to stay home, not blitz. It negates the big advantage that they have. Right. And then you have a weak linebacker core, and you leave gaps. What happens? Kyler Murray runs through them. And that's what we thought would happen. That's what we told you would happen, and that is what happened. So there's that. And then, the secondary, I just don't even know what to say. The secondary sucks, okay? Let's just say it like that.
Right.
Troy Apke, bit multiple times. Ron Darby bit on that little stutter step thing that Christian Kirk did. Cost him a touchdown. Not on that play, but the next play after that, I believe.
Right.
There's just not enough talent, period, dot, the end, in the secondary to matter. The linebackers are average. All you guys that were predicting top 10 defenses and stuff because Chase Young showed up, that was never going to happen. He's not going to have that big of an impact all by himself.
I think we will end up as a top 10 front 7, but with a so-so secondary, that doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah, I'm still not willing to give up on the notion that they can be a top 10 defense. Now, I don't remember exactly what I said earlier in the offseason. At this point, I'm being completely honest with you. I may have said top 15, but I do think top 10 was possible. The reason being, now I do agree with what you said pre-game when we talked about Kyler Murray. I did think they were going to do a better job at containing him, but I didn't think it would be this bad. But I do agree, like he was a weapon, and you're going to face another guy down the line in a couple of weeks in Lamar Jackson, and I think Russell Wilson is down the road as well. I say all this to say you're not going to have these many dual threat quarterbacks throughout the season. That's going to cause you that many headaches. So you will have your opportunities to get back to what you do best, and you just hope that when you play other quarterbacks that are similar to Kyler Murray, that you just do a better job. at playing these guys. And you also hope that you're at full strength. You're playing these guys with Kendall Fuller, who's out, and then for the love of God, I couldn't understand. Now I think it only happened twice from my count. I don't understand why you have one of the best Hall of Fame wide receivers, slot receivers, out boundary X Y. He could play any position, and you have a linebacker checking him, especially on third downs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like we know better. We know better, and you still allow him. And it's in single coverage too. Like you don't like you just know better. And I only say that to say like if you had these, if you have full health, I don't think Jack Del Rio would intentionally go into another situation like that. Be like, okay, John Bostic, you have this receiver. I know he's an elite Hall of Fame guy, but you have him. I don't
Go
think
check
that's
Larry
happen
Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna happen. So I said to say like this defense had a bad outing. And obviously, you know, they're not perfect. They're definitely not elite, but I think that they're gonna have some chances to. I mean, early on we saw it. Like they gave the offense a golden opportunity. With Landon Collins making that play to get him the ball in great field position. But if you get Apke out there that's still struggling, and then Darby exposed to a lot of his vulnerabilities, I don't know how bad it'll get on the back end, but I think that the front seven is still good enough to keep you in the top 10.
Well, let's hope, and like newsflash, there's a more mobile quarterback coming up, like you said, in Lamar Jackson, who's far more dangerous than Kyler Murray. Look, we're also lucky here that Arizona shot itself in the foot repeatedly with all their penalties. They had 12 penalties, 11 accepted, and a lot of it were dumb things on offense, that they were doing.
Well, their offensive line is sloppy. They get away with it because of Kyle Murray,
Yeah, it is. They let Kenyon Drake get rolling more towards the end of the game. Which wasn't good. It's just an overall really poor outing. We knew it was going to happen. It's just a bad matchup for this style of offense. I think they really need linebackers that are more dynamic against offenses like this to really help.
They do, and I think who's the kid we drafted from Michigan?
Khaleke Hudson.
Yeah, Khaleke Hudson. Yeah. Someone like that who's more of like that safety hybrid type.
And the problem is he's a kid,
Yeah,
I mean, he's a rookie.
I would not put him out there and just say go figure this out necessarily, but like that's the kind of guy you need. You need one or two of them out there against these matchups.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to beat this drum, but like that's why I always said Isaiah Simmons would have been more useful to this team than Chase Young. That was what I was getting at. It's water under the bridge.
There's an argument for it. Sure,
I'm on the Chase Young hype train now. I mean, he's on the team, but that's why. I was saying that Simmons would have been the guy to draft.
They need a couple athletic freaks in the second tier.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. They absolutely do. So I don't know what you take from this game and be able to kind of parlay it forward to when you meet the Ravens in a couple weeks. It doesn't bode well at all.
It doesn't.
Well,
I don't even know if it bodes well for next week.
We know what's going to happen. And what's even worse is like we're sitting here focusing on how the defense is going to contain Lamar Jackson. We didn't even mention the fact that the offense may not even produce more than 150 yards.
We'll get there. Don't worry. I've got some good stats on that one, Jamal. Don't worry.
Yeah, it may not be pretty. But back to this game. I know we were talking about defensively, like there are many different issues, and I think a good transition to the offense is to talk about how I feel like this defense. I didn't think it was possible, but I noticed like how long they were on the field. I would like to know the time of possession eventually, but I like the amount of time that they were on the field at the pace that Arizona was going. It did not help that the Washington offense, was not able to sustain drives throughout the entire course of the game.
That's going to play into those defensive rankings that we were talking about in a big way.
The time of possession is going to be pretty striking because Arizona had basically two more possessions than did Washington because of the fumble on the punt,
right?
The punt return, and so that gave them. So I counted 12 possessions for the Cardinals and 10 for Washington unless you count the 2 seconds Sims had the ball as a possession. And so, and on top of that, Washington had a whole bunch of 3-and-outs and short drives. I think the time of possession is going to really be striking. And you saw in the fourth quarter, a bunch of defensive linemen, hands on the hips.
Yeah, they were gassed.
Yeah.
I mean, they were getting gassed by the end of the first quarter. You saw.
Honestly, I thought their defense kind of quit toward the end of the third quarter a little bit.
You were down 30-15.
Yeah.
Shoot, even what was the score going into the fourth quarter? Were they still shut out?
No.
They had the field goal in the third quarter.
They had the field goal in the third quarter.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I think this defense, man, it kind of reminded me of a glimpse of 2018 after Alex Smith got injured. We knew for the first 9 games, excluding the Texans game, actually. So for the first 8 games, we knew as long as they can control the clock and sustain drives, that defense would be fresh. And also, capitalize on whatever opportunities they get.
Mm-hmm.
And there's obviously more talent on this team defensively up front. There's more talent. So obviously there's a distinctual difference there. But this offense, man, is a. I tweeted it. I don't know if I can really sit here for 14 more games and actually watch them play offense. I don't know if I can do it because there's a multitude of issues that's really getting on me, and it ranges from Scott Turner down to the offensive line play. Like it's a lot.
Jamal, I seriously contemplated turning on the Dodger game today.
Yeah.
I really almost did.
Let's flip sides because we are at that time anyway. So let's talk about how messed up this offense is looking these days. The running game, like you see maybe 1 or 2 good runs from Gibson. The passing game, I think, is a mess. The line play is a mess. Terry McLaurin looked good in the fourth quarter, but he didn't really do anything before that.
Hey, listen, that wasn't his fault, okay?
No,
Dwayne Haskins
not.
is a mess.
Yeah.
Can I say it? Dwayne Haskins. Yes, they had the Little Sisters of the Blind and the Poor, as offensive line up there, and certainly he didn't get hit a ton, but there was pressure in his face all day long.
There's been pressure in his face every snap.
Right. But that having been said, Dwayne Haskins does not look sharp. He doesn't look comfortable. He missed passes. He had bad passes. He missed McLaurin open a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Haskins is really getting it, and I don't think you can blame it all on the offensive line. Certainly it's part of it, and certainly part of it is that, other than Terry McLaurin, there isn't any established weapon on the team. It's an entire team thing, but I don't think Dwayne Haskins is really helping himself or helping the team very much right now. That's my thought on it.
And, okay, so this might be... Jamal, tell me if this is a reference that you're younger, so you might not get it. But I'm getting a Patrick Ramsey 2.0's vibe from Dwayne Haskins.
Oh, that was disrespectful. That was look. Come on, I know Patrick Ramsey, man.
But you were a little kid.
How old was I? Patrick was around in 04, 05. So I was about 12, 13.
Yeah.
That's around the time that my fandom started blossoming. So
sure.
I'm somewhat familiar with him.
Yeah, I don't know Patrick Ramsey, man. That's a bit rough, but I mean,
I'm talking about the fact that he lost that ability to be comfortable in the pocket because he got, shell shocked by Spurrier, and Haskins, when I watch him play, he's playing. He hasn't been sacked 50 times, but he's playing like it already.
I don't think he's shell shocked though. I just don't think he's just there yet. I think the pass rush is not helping. For sure, it's making it worse, but I don't think.
Help?
What's that?
It'll help against the pass rush if he actually looks at the check down options.
That's my point. He's not. He's missing stuff. That's why you're exactly right. He's not helping himself, and it's not all the offensive line's fault.
No, it's not.
I just don't understand it, and it's frustrating to watch because there was about four or five times throughout this game where I sit here and I see a running back going to the flat or a swing, and I'm just like, he right there, hit him, he's right there, and then 2 seconds later he's covered. And I'm like, well, if you hit him right, that he has an opportunity to make him. It's one-on-one. Nobody's out there yet. You have an opportunity to get him the ball, He'll get you the yards, and you can avoid taking a bad sack, or you can avoid trying to scramble and make a play, and you end up gaining nothing because you didn't want to throw it to the check down option. He never even looks at the check down, and it frustrates me because how can you implement something like you want to utilize your backs? You cut Adrian Peterson because you felt like he didn't fit the scheme that you wanted to do moving forward. You have these opportunities to get these guys in open space, and one of the steps that you can do that for is throwing to the check down option, throwing the swing route, and you can't even do that. You're not even looking their way. You're not even doing it. The only way you're going to do it is if it's within the design of a play. It reminds me of Kirk Cousins when you beg that man to go deep. Like he's not going to drop back and go deep unless it's going to Deshaun. Like no matter what, he was going to throw deep.
Well, look,
frustrating.
I think it's downright embarrassing that this team cut its most consistent and most talented offensive threat because of some perceived scheme issue, when what you were left with is running backs, none of whom can consistently gain yards. I think it's embarrassing, and it was a huge mistake. And I didn't see what he did today, Peterson up in Detroit, but last week he had a great game.
Yeah.
So leave it at that. Look, here's a couple other notes. First of all, offensive line, Scherf was out, looked like an ugly knee injury. We were recording this immediately after the game, and we do not yet have word about the extent of his knee injury. It looked ugly to me, but we'll see.
I'm going to do a quick Twitter search.
Okay, all right, great. Schweitzer didn't look really any worse than any of those other bums on the offensive line, I'd say. None of them looked particularly good. I think Deron Christian got abused like a redheaded stepchild by Chandler Jones at times. Looked awful. Even Chase Roullier let some interior pressure in. I thought the offensive line is a complete mess. What on earth is Logan Thomas doing being a primary target on this team? I don't understand it. This man got 9 targets. He was the second most targeted receiver on this team. And how many? I counted 3 of them, at least of those he should have had. Yeah. I don't understand what on earth they're thinking by having Logan Thomas be one of the primary targets. That makes 0 sense to me whatsoever.
I mean, I hate to keep banging this drum. I would rather see AGG out there doing those same routes. Because most of them,
I wouldn't. I don't think he's not ready.
Well, you know what? He's 1 for 1. He went out there for 1 play, caught 1 catch for 3 yards.
Oh, good. I mean, I bet you I could catch one at some point. You know.
Look, I just don't. I don't get the thing either with Logan Thomas. Like the very first possession, now I say they, but I will have to give some accountability on Haskins there. I understand that he's trying to. I think he has a lot of trust in Thomas, and as an actual player, I understand that on his behalf that you're going to trust your guy that's out there on there, and especially on the level of chemistry that they had through the training camp that was reported to us because we weren't there. I understand all that, but he's not Jimmy Graham. He is not Jimmy Graham. You cannot force these certain passes down the seam. The phase, none of it. You can't force these things to him because he's not athletic enough to get that. He was a mobile quarterback who was tough to bring down, but he never wowed you with speed. He never wowed you with agility. None of that stuff. And that's why they converted him to tight end in the NFL because eventually you had to hope that his size translated to being able to just make pass catches, and that was the hope. But he's not athletic to the extent that you can expect him to use that 6'5" frame to the best of his ability. I've never seen it in any of the games that I watched prior to this, and that's frustrating too. It's like I understand like there's very little options, so you have to do something, but be a little bit more effective when you use Logan. Just be a little bit more effective. Don't have to do the low percent throws and stuff like that. You can't do that.
Well, I think you actually point to I think they're doing way too many low percentage plays that Haskins is clearly not comfortable with. They need to find like 5 or 10 things that he's comfortable doing, which are, I mean, you talked about this when he was drafted, Steve. He's good with these crossing routes. Simple, this guy goes deep, this guy does a crossing route, he hits it for 5 yards and it goes, you pick up yards. they've got to start incorporating a bunch of that stuff that he's just the stuff he can hit, because there's way too many plays that we're seeing where it's like, all right, so he is throwing to the running back, but the running back's covered, and it's a very tight window.
I think a lot of this is on Scott Turner.
I think
I don't
is
think
too.
Scott Turner is doing a very good job right now with calling plays. I think, like I said at the top of the show, I think Scott is trying to force in this Carolina offense into this team when they don't have the same type of weapons that Carolina had. Carolina had a Hall of Fame tight end and an MVP candidate level running back.
Right.
You know, and Washington didn't have any of that. What they have, who's their talent?
Got a good receiver.
They have Terry McLaurin.
Right.
And a bunch of junk. That's not fair. They have Terry McLaurin and a bunch of unproven young players.
Right.
You know, and some of whom aren't going to pan out. So I don't think that. I think Turner needs to change his focus and perspective to do what you're suggesting, Alex, and find the few things that Dwayne Haskins is comfortable with and can do well. Forget about this. They spent all offseason talking about trying to find the next Christian McCaffrey. You know, and they don't have it. They don't have that guy on this team. So let's change it up.
I do want to. We are revisiting a lot of things that we said in the offseason here. I'm aware of that, and just generally, not literally us, but we're revisiting a lot of these things. And I do know that I mentioned Christian McCaffrey a lot when it came to Antonio Gibson. And I'm actually frustrated at myself. I'm completely frustrated at myself, and I don't think it's entirely Antonio Gibson's fault, but the comparison in terms of what they wanted to do with Gibson was completely unfair to McCaffrey. Well, both of the players, excuse me. It was completely unfair to both of them because McCaffrey does so much, and to ask Gibson, who wasn't even a primary ball carrier at Memphis, to say, okay, you're going to get some touches, both in carries and pass catching. And he's not even, truth be told, Gibson's not even getting that many pass catches. He's not even getting that many targets. So to have him do these things and knowing that he can catch the ball, but you're not utilizing him as a dual threat. It was so far-fetched. I don't know. We mentioned Scott Turner, and I have a lot to say about him. But I've said that last week too, and it's just so much. It's so inconsistent. But it's like, what don't you see early on in the game that made you like? Where is it that it's not clicking? Because we know how Dwayne Haskins plays when he's at his best. You had a whole offseason to evaluate him from his 2019 year. So what don't you see that is continuously getting us off to slow starts? I have a lot to say, but the Antonio Gibson thing is perplexing because that Christian McCaffrey thing, you thought it was like in terms of the scheme, you thought it was so clear as day, and yet they still can't get it done. I think that's where Scott Turner fails.
On that Gibson note, why aren't we putting him out as a wide receiver from time to time? Like, if you know he's a good receiver, like,
well, I'll tell you why. One, he's not a good receiver, okay? He was an acceptable receiver at Memphis because he out-athleted everybody. He's not, in terms of his ability as a receiver, he's very raw. His footwork is very raw. His route running is very raw.
Sure.
He's not really an NFL-level receiver. That's why he's not doing it. You know, and look, I mean, he played 1 year at Memphis on a team that has got 2 or 3 Antonio Gibson-type guys.
Right.
You know,
and it's Memphis.
Yeah, and I love Antonio Gibson. I just think it was a fool's errand for anybody to expect he was going to walk in here and become Christian McCaffrey immediately. This was never going to happen. I never thought that was going to happen. He's going to get better, but he's a rookie. He needs a lot of help to be a decent slot receiver.
Let's be honest. He is contributing.
Absolutely.
If you factor out what he's doing right now,
I'm not trying to poop all over him. I mean, he's a rookie, you know. Right. I mean, it was never going to be amazing.
My point was more, you could be a lot more creative with him if you're willing to put him at more than just running back.
He's not ready for it. I'm telling you, Alex. He's not that good as a receiver at an NFL level. That's why they're not doing it.
The receivers we have are not that good at receiver.
Yeah, but they're better than him though. You know, they're professional receivers, and he's really not that. Right now, he can get there. but he's
Sure.
not that. But yeah, I mean, listen. I mean, the receivers are a bunch of bums, other than Terry McLaurin and Steve Sims is sort of the.
He's a
I
trick
was
guy.
about to,
Well, he's
yeah,
a
kind
gadget
of.
guy
I
more than
mean,
anything.
a little bit. Dontrell Inman is just a guy.
Right.
AGG is clearly not ready and just not there yet. Logan Thomas drops a ton of way more balls than I thought. You're left with Cam Sims, who played special teams,
Right.
and isn't
What's
even on
even
the
worse?
53.
What's even worse? And this adds to your point because I get it. But back to Logan Thomas, he doesn't even drop passes. He's just not athletic enough to get the ones that
Yeah.
Haskins throw. Like the best throws that Haskins made today, some of them were to Logan, and he just couldn't make the play.
Well,
I
you
count
can't
those
get
as
to the high
drops,
point.
Jamal. I was counting
Oh
those
no,
as
no,
drops
no.
because he
Yeah,
didn't
I'm
go
not.
get the ball.
I'm not even arguing. I was just answering your point. That's
Yeah.
what makes it even worse. Is Thomas is not. He's not the guy that they are trying to force him to be, or give him the opportunity to be. He can't do it. And that's where I was getting at. But I kind of agree with everything you said. I also want to add in the notion that 2 games in, I think that punt return is just a different beast for Steven Sims. I think it's too much going on at a quicker pace versus him returning a kickoff where he can see the field a little bit more and he has time to make a decision. But
Right.
the punt
Although
return,
even in kickoffs, he's struggled today. Let's be honest.
yeah, he struggled today. And I give him. I can't. He's accountable for it. I'm not even gonna argue against it. He struggled today. But obviously we know from his resume, X amount of games that he's returned the kicks that he does a little bit better in kickoffs.
Yeah.
But
I think it's time to activate Isaiah Wright and let him return punts.
Yeah, I would like to see Gibson try it. I'd like to see Wright try. Like, I think it's they threw Stroman out there for one of them. And I was like, really? That's the move you're making?
I think it may have just been Stamps because I think he got hurt. He got hurt.
Yeah, that was because of that hurt. That was because it was the injury.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But there is one thing though. That's starting to eat at me too. No, it was January. I did a film breakdown on Steven Sims. I don't think I specifically included this notion, but I think like what I'm seeing is a build up or a continuation of some of the things that I saw. He does a little bit too much with the ball in his hands versus trying to get upfield. And it kind of bothers me. Like instead of running forward, he'll try and make a move or try and get around somebody thinking he's a little bit too quicker, and he'll find himself in trouble. And it didn't necessarily always show it on the offensive side today, but I did see it on the kickoffs as well. That kind of got us in a negative field position type situation. But one of the things that Sims and Inman did moving forward is going to be important. It's only one game, so moving forward is going to be important. Either the coaches have to emphasize this, or they just, or the receivers themselves have to. They just have to have more awareness. You need to understand where you are at all times, especially on third downs. They killed themselves a lot, not being beyond the sticks on their drags and ends. And it kind of helped. It kind of helped contribute to the Washington woes on third down. And I don't know like how quick of a fix is going to be for them, but if they can't have that awareness to be where they need to be on those key situations, even with Haskins playing bad at times, it's not going to help if the receivers get open and they don't even help themselves. It's not.
There was that one down. I think I know exactly what you're talking about, where Inman was running a crossing route, and he was beyond the sticks at one point, moved back underneath, even though he wasn't really being covered that heavily. I think it was a zone coverage, and so he caught it like a yard and a half behind the first down marker and got tackled.
You want to hear random negative stat of the day?
Okay.
Because of course you did. So I started tracking Haskins' passing yardage by drive. Would anybody care to guess when they went over 100 net yards passing in this game?
I'm guessing late
Go ahead,
third quarter.
No, fourth quarter, beginning of the fourth
fantastic.
quarter. Yeah, and so those 100, he ended up with 199 net. The team ended up 199 net, 223 gross passing yards. All half of that is garbage time. Okay,
Yeah.
this was a very bad effort today by the
I mean,
Redskins
it's been two
offense.
bad games in a row
Washington
for
offense.
him.
Yeah,
The one saving thing for him is that he hasn't had interceptions.
he's not throwing interceptions. Yeah, and the
Right.
fumble, that kind of stuff happens. He got hit in the arm. It happens. I mean, I
Well, I
didn't
mean,
blame him too
interceptions
much for
happen
that.
too. Like
Yeah,
turnovers, the
but he's
defense
not.
is out there to
Yeah,
play too. But
yeah, yeah.
like his only thing he's done right is he's not turning it over. He's like a
Yes.
game manager, but he's just fundamentally not a good game manager.
I like to pat myself on the back with his final score, by the way, because I think I predicted 31-17, if I recall.
Did you?
Oh, yeah, I
Hey,
think so.
you earned it if that's the case. You definitely earned it. Same,
I would
same
like
thing
to
happened to
think
me last week.
I would like to think, by the way, one of our users who shall remain anonymous um, showed me the proper way this year to watch these games online, and I appreciate that person for passing the information on to me. My plea worked.
Nice. I'm glad to
Yeah.
hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, nah, me too.
No more
Save
sports
you,
bars
save
for
you a
this
trip
kid.
to the bar.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Steve hates sports bars.
Buying you a
Bars.
Mountain Dew.
There you go. Yeah, that's exactly right. I hate sports bars with a passion. But anyway, so what else on offense here? I don't know, man. I think we've kind of said it. I just think everything is going wrong with this team in terms of offense right now.
If
There's no
Brandon Scherf is out for a
consistency.
while, that's panic mode now.
I mean, there's no consistency in the play calling. There's no consistency in the quarterbacking. The offensive line is a complete and total mess, and it's getting worse. If Scherf is out for any length of time, that's an overall negative event. The tight end position is just a zero
Yeah.
in terms of net productivity. So it's going to be really tough for this team to win a bunch of games. I think. I hate to say it. I hate to be Mr. Negative, but I have to say what I feel.
I mean, we kind of all knew it's a rebuilding year. You were just hoping to see signs of more than just one or two guys who could, be part of the
Right.
future. And
Yep.
I'll be honest, if next year you said we're replacing 10 of these 11 starters, okay. I'm fine with that,
Wouldn't surprise me a whole lot.
No. I don't know. I don't want to do game balls. You guys want to do game balls?
Oh yeah,
Oh, okay.
absolutely.
Well, if it's part of the show.
Yeah, we
It's
gotta
part
do
of the
it.
show. Okay. I'm trying to think who. All right,
We're
I'll
not
go
gonna let
first.
everybody. We're not letting ourselves off the hook for this just because it's
All
a
right.
bad game.
I'll go first. Let me give the offensive one. I'm going to go with Gibson because, unlike Terry McLaurin, who got a lot of his stats in garbage time, Gibson at least showed up a little bit before the fourth quarter. So he'll get mine on offense. And I guess Landon Collins on defense for the interception, but he also let up that touchdown. It's kind of like a half-flated game ball.
Deflated ball.
Right.
I'll go. For offense, I'm just gonna go Terry McLaurin. I feel like for him, when he had the opportunity to make plays, he did. He played physical, and I think that he never showed any quit. So I think that somebody like him, obviously, he can only control his end of the deal. He has to have the ball actually thrown to him. And then when they attempted to come back, when it was still within a couple of possessions versus multiple 3 or 4, whatever, however it maxed out to. He showed no quit. Defensively, I'm going John Bostic. I think that he was. I can't. Even though I talked about him covering Larry Fitzgerald, that's not his fault. That's not the position he was put in by himself. The coordinator put him there. I'm not going to fault him for having to cover Larry Fitzgerald. But outside of that, in those moments, John Bostic was pretty much all over the field, and he made quite a few plays that showed me that he's not like a placeholder. He's actually a starting middle linebacker. So defense is John Bostic.
Okay. I'm going to give
Fair.
my offensive game ball to Tress Way. Clearly, I'm dead serious. Terry McLaurin, had a decent game, but like you pointed out, Alex, a lot of his stats are garbage time. Tress produced like he always does. He got screwed on the touchback that they called not a touchback that was. So Tress Way gets my offensive game ball, and I'm giving Kyler Murray my defensive game ball. And I'm going to go make Troy Apke and Ronald Darby walk to the Cardinal locker room and present him the game ball. So Kyler Murray, my defensive game ball, and Tressway, my offensive game ball.
I don't know what they were thinking with Apke. I really don't. We didn't even talk about that.
I hate to keep giving game balls to the opposing team, but until they start playing well, it's going to keep happening.
You know what? It's your thing. When we lose, you give it to the other team.
Not always. I didn't last week.
But we won
not last week. Toward the end of the season last year, I didn't.
Okay.
It's only when it's a particularly offensive that they get a game ball.
That's fair. Okay, guys, let's wrap it up.
Cheers,
folks,
everybody.
Yeah. Folks, thanks for listening. Like, I just want to do a cold close one day where I'm just like, all right, we're done. And just hit end. But thanks, everybody, for listening. We will be back on Wednesday with the pregame show. Who are we playing? The Browns? Thursday. Sorry, we record Wednesday. You'll hear it Thursday.
Yeah, it's the Browns. It's Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
And the Cleveland Browns.
Right, with their crazy receivers. And luckily, they don't have a good defense. From what
We'll get to them. We'll get to that.
All right, but thanks for listening, folks, and hope you have a good week.